Welcome to our first workshop in the mini series for Blood and Botanicals, Mapping the Feminine Body, Female Anatomy and Womb Energetics. My name is Divina.
I am Melanie.
My name is Divina. I am a womb practitioner and a medicine woman. I used to have ovarian cysts, pretty big ones, like 3 golf ball sized ovarian cysts. And I also had very irregular periods. At one point, around 24 years old, I was bleeding like twice a year. And I was being told by the doctors that it was hereditary and that if I wanted to get rid of the cysts, I would need to have surgery to either get them cut off or take pills to get them to shrink. And somehow my body and my heart was just like, no, there has to be another way for you to come back into alignment, because I really felt so much chaos in my body. I was tired all the time. I was angry all the time. I was crying all the time. It was like being on a roller coaster. And so what I did was go outside of the system that I had been taught was the only answer to my health problems. And I started to travel. I started to go to other countries. I started to ask questions. I started to read. I started to sit with grandmothers and aunties and ask them for their wisdom, and then take that wisdom and integrate it into my own process. I began to work with herbs and master plant medicines that really supported me in understanding physically, one, what was going on in my body, but also energetically. And so all of the work that I've done in my own life to bring me into this place of alignment where I'm bleeding every 30 days and I have no more ovarian cysts, I share this with the women that I work with, because it's crazy that we're being told that we only have 2 options, because it's not the truth. There are many more options. So you can really understand how learning these things and integrating these tools in your life can really support you. Why is it important that we know our bodies? It's important because most of the systems that we grew up in are not teaching us about our bodies in this way, in this detailed, intricate way. The feminine body in general in the Western system is not studied scientifically. It's just not important. So we have to discover and seek this information for ourselves, because it's not openly available. But we have to seek this information out, because in order to be deeply in relation with your vulva, with your vagina, you have to know where they are. You have to know what they are. You begin to get comfortable looking at them in a mirror. You begin to get comfortable touching them, feeling them. You begin to get comfortable with your sex organs and your anatomy in such a profound way. And what we're doing is to help you build a relationship. Because when you begin to build a relationship with your womb, with your tissues, that's when this beautiful energetic side comes in. It's not just that we want to have a regular period that doesn't hurt and we get to move on with our lives. It's also the energetics, and how can we bring harmony and health and wellness to both aspects of our beings? Because we're not just physical body, skin and bones, we're also energy bodies that go out for many, many, many levels. So it's caring for the full scope of the female anatomy. Our bodies move through cycles with hormones, but also our cervix moves through cycles and moves through different fluids. So depending on what part of our cycle we're on, our uterus is creating different fluids, our vagina is creating different fluids. And so through every phase of the cycle, the fluids will look differently. Luteal tends to be the driest of all of the phases because the fluids are drying up as they're preparing for the blood to come. But during follicular, generally, and I say generally very loosely because everyone's body is different. So sometimes it can be like a thick, white, creamy discharge. When you're ovulating, it will be like egg white, like really sticky, and kind of when you do your fingers like this, you can see it very sticky and like white. And so what our bodies are doing, what our uterus is doing, is preparing for us to make a baby. This stigma that fluid or discharge is either gross or means infection is not true. 2, panty liners are good hygiene. Yeah, so this goes back to this idea that our discharge is dirty. If your regular monthly fluid gets on your underwear, you can wash it, it's fine. The second thing around panty liners is that most of them are not made with products that are good for our bodies to be absorbing. The tissues of the labia and the vulva are very sensitive and delicate, and they're absorbing these toxins from these materials that were not made with our health and safety in mind. 4, the uterus is only important for pregnancy. Our uterus is everything. She controls our monthly cycles. So she has a huge effect on how we literally live every month. Like, is our nervous systems dysregulated? Are our hormones out of whack? Are we in pain? Having a relationship with your uterus, understanding what she needs and how to care for her and how to keep her balanced, is something that happens all throughout our lives, not just when we're entering motherhood. Frequent yeast infections and UTIs are normal. This is a big one because they're not. So it'd be so easy to just go to the pharmacy and get the thing and get the pill and get the egg and like do the thing, and then 2 weeks later there's another one, and then a month later there's another one. So these signs specifically are signs of womb disconnect, which is our wombs and our uteruses telling us that there's something wrong. They're not asking us to put a Band-Aid on it. They're trying to get our attention, to say like, hey, there's something here that I need your support with. And so part of what we do in our work is support you around things like this, both with herbs and with the energetics around what it is that the womb is trying to communicate to you. And then the last one is that yoni steams are just a trend. Women all over the world have been yoni steaming for thousands of years. It's like a deep ancestral practice. And this combination of working with herbs for the support, the lubrication, the cleansing of the tissues of the vagina is not scientifically proven, but it's proven by our ancestors, because they've been doing it for a long time.
The mucosal membranes within our vaginal walls are really absorbent and really sensitive to aromatic compounds.
An introduction into womb energetics. What happens is that the physical symptoms that we oftentimes see in our wombs, in our uteruses, are a direct connection to the energetics of what's happening in our womb. And so what do I mean by energetics? Ancestry, trapped memories, trauma, and physical health are some of the womb energetics that can be trapped, or the energy that can be trapped in the womb. So ancestry, our wombs hold intergenerational traumas that have been passed down from our maternal lineage. When our mother was a fetus in our grandmother's womb, we were present as an egg in our mother's body, because we're born with all the eggs that we'll ever have. So there's a big piece here around what is passed down to us in our ancestral lineage in our wombs. And unless we're taking the time to understand what's happening, oftentimes it's like, oh, well, it's just this physical thing that keeps happening. It's a UTI or a cyst or a fibroid or whatever, but there are always roots that show us what it is that's actually happening. So memories, the body holds the score. And when something full or challenging happens, the brain oftentimes tucks the memory away somewhere in the body. The body will store something in a spot, and then until it's worked with, that memory stays there. And as women, the majority of what is stored for us goes into our wombs. So a practice that I love to share with my clients is how to work with the tissues of the vagina and the vulva to tap into what is being held there How can we nurture it? How can we support it? And how can we allow that energy to disperse and to move? Trauma, this is a huge one. Everyone has a different definition of trauma. Trauma can be, having had a sexual experience where you wanted to say no, but you weren't able to. Having been assaulted, it can be a gynecological exam where the doctor was not caring and compassionate and used a speculum in a way that was uncomfortable and painful. It could be a birthing experience where you gave birth and someone had their hands inside of your vagina in a violent way. So the word trauma encompasses so much, and it comes back to the memory that the womb holds of like, wow, these things happened and they've never been addressed, but now they're just here with me, these little seeds, these little pebbles of these really challenging things that have happened, even abortions that were not done in a compassionate way. And so the womb oftentimes carries a lot of our trauma. And then physical health. So diet, lifestyle, stress, hormones, relationships, work can all play a part on the health and wellness of the wombs, both physically and energetically. Energy blockages often show up as things like cysts, PMDD, PMS, fibroids, vaginismus, and the list goes on.
My name is Melanie. I am a community herbalist. Let's talk about rose. It's an astringent, which is gonna go hand in hand with its toning tonic actions, specifically in the reproductive system, specifically the uterus. So it's gonna help tone and strengthen these muscles. It's also anti-inflammatory, also has antioxidants. It's also an aphrodisiac, and that we can see coupled with its nerving action. But where rose really shines is it being really relaxing and calming within our heart. And when our heart is softened and our heart is opened and our walls within our heart are relaxed, that also applies to both vaginal walls. This is the energetics of rose. We can work with rose energetically, and if we are looking at womb energetics and exploring these our vaginal walls, it can be really tender, it can be really vulnerable, and there can be a lot of emotions that come up. There can be emotions around grief, emotions around heartache. It can be relationship things. Rose is a perfect ally because it really just hugs your heart, and it's for your heart, and it helps you open your heart. And it's also a nervine. So it being a nervine means that it's going to relax our nervous system, but calm the heart. So it calms a fluttering heart and an anxious heart, tending to grief and heartache. So helping us through any challenging emotions that might come up, relaxes the nervous system. And then another way that rose is really great in its energetics is that it's a very sensual flower. So ways you can work with rose is you can get yourself some roses. It's really magnetic, and we see the magnetic and the sensual qualities also connected to the planet Venus and relationships and how we are relating to things. Its aroma, you can work with rose in a tincture form, in a tea. You can work with it in essential oils, so even applying that in between your inner thighs or on the womb, or just inhaling and working with its aroma intentionally, because rose on its own, and aromatherapy is huge, but the smell of rose, you're smelling those compounds, and those compounds are having an effect on your nervous system and different parts of your system. That's going to be really vulnerable and really tender, because rose helps us with that tenderness, but rose has thorns. It helps us lead with this resiliency from the heart. And she's delicate, but she's fierce. Another reason why I love rose is because it tones and it strengthens the uterus. So that's also going to help with the menstrual cycle. When the tissues are toned, that's going to help when the endometrium is contracting, because we want those tissues to contract and be toned so it can release the endometrium in a very easy, smooth way.
A little bit about our holistic ritual coaching program. When you work with me, we'll be working on the energetics and the physical health and wellness of your womb, of your body, of your heart, of your spirit. It starts in the womb and it ripples into your entire life. We do somatic practices and ritual, and I teach you tools and resources, not just in a way that when you're working with me, you feel better, but in a way that when you're back into the world and our time together is over, you have these roots now that you can rely on to help you manage your energy, manage your cycles, connect to your sensual essence, tap into your creativity, show up in the world with your head tall and your voice strong, ask for what you need.
Yes, in this program, we will go through an intake form, and then from there, we'll work with herbs and plants and protocols, formulas to support what's currently coming up for you. And then that can change depending on how we are moving through the program.